Hello, welcome to the final edition of my so-called 8-Bit Life. I'm your host, Roberto Villegas. Joining me today on episode 300, Kyle Kanon.
Thank you very much.
Do you realize, Kyle, do you realize, Kyle, and for those who are new to the show, who are excited because I actually had a friend of mine today tweet, ask, like, what's a good episode to give as sort of an intro to stuff? And it's hard for me to think back, because I'm probably going to pick something new to sort of promote. I got to look back and stuff like that. Because I was talking to, I think it was Doug Funny, who I had recently on the show, hip-hop artist. And I had mentioned that I had the guys a while back from, years ago from Undergrads on, right? Being one of the bigger episodes in sort of the history of the show. And for those who have no idea what Undergrads is, long story short, it is an old, I guess MTV
show that only you watched.
Right, a show that me and like 10 other people who are all part of the same Facebook group that all are friends with Pete Williams because he went on Facebook and he made friends with everybody that was pretty much undergrad stuff. Like we were like me and like maybe 50 total people, and a good chunk of them are still in Canada. It's like
it came along too soon. It needed Twitter and all this.
It needed a lot of
it was such a good show, but it was I only watched it because of you. I really didn't know where or when it was, or never even really heard of it.
Well, because it was like that was the era of, and I know it's Justin Robert Young's favorite, like one of his favorite shows, at least was, or probably is one of his top ones. Was Clone High was also at that point in time, and that also probably needed something else too, because it was just weird. Like we talk about cartoons now as being sometimes strange and sort of self-referential, but like Clone High was literally, the idea was, what if we made teenage versions of all these really historically famous people and made them like they're not the historically famous people. They're just clone versions of them growing up as if they're now, and it's just like that's a very high level concept, Yeah. But so I was telling Doug this. So I was telling him the whole like I the undergrads. He's like, holy shit, it's one of my favorite shows. I go, yeah, here's a link, and it's funny thinking just all these 300 episodes and trying to figure out like one, why I still do this, not in a bad way, in a it's become kind of because well I Kyle, you could probably speak to this just being a parent, like you start getting into routines.
Oh yeah.
And I can imagine like when you had your second kid, even though the first kid was, not say that you don't love either of your kids, equally, whatever, this.
I assure you, I love my children.
No, I understand you do, but I can imagine like the first one was like the test case, if you will, where you're just like,
absolutely.
Like you're just like.
It's a very weird feeling when you come home from the hospital with a newborn and you're like, holy shit.
I've got a life I got to take care of.
It's a very, very scary and intimidating. And the second one, you just already know exactly what to do, and you have all the right stuff.
Right, and that's sort of the thing. This is this is the first podcast. This is technically the second podcast. The first podcast I did was literally with Ryan Hagan and John Simpkins, who I've had on in the past, and I may have Ryan back on. I need to get John back on when he gets back in town, because he sometimes comes for South by. Called if you thought my naming convention now was horrible because I can never title shit whatsoever. I am terrible at titling things. Like that's like the fuck. What do I title podcasts? Fuck. What have I used yet? Have I used this yet? No. Fuck. I have shit. And then like everything goes through my brain.
There's a title for this one.
Now, yeah, that's what it is.
Fuck. Have I used this yet?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna just completely put it off every because now I'm worried about YouTube stuff. I'm just like, well, let's not even make it searchable. Just call it fuck. let's just put gun in the title too, and how to hack the government. Let's just put all those in the title, the tags.
Great idea.
Put that all in the. Those are all searchable. Those are all high search tags, Kyle.
When people are searching Alex Jones, they'll find you.
I mean, we're both in Austin.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
God damn, that's like one.
Get him on the show, man.
No, I wouldn't know where to begin. I wouldn't know where to begin with like Alex Jones. If I had Alex,
knows he's an entertainer. That's the key. We finally got that admission. So he's an entertainer and he's crazy.
I know, but I wouldn't know where to begin with that kind of crazy. Like if you were him being fake crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna peel back the curtain. I'm gonna peel back the curtain a bit on the show. One of the previous episodes I had years ago, and it's sort of a figure or was a figure in another internet show I watched called, at the time I think it was called NSFW Show, and the persona it was a musician by the name of Old John Smokey. Now I know for a fact that Old John Smokey is not Old John Smokey. It actually is somebody's brother, and I want to try to get him to be, it was my first moment of like, oh shit, I'm interviewing Andy Kaufman. Like the idea that you never got a straight answer from Andy Kaufman and that sort of thing. That was part of his shtick, and that's awesome and cool. I never got it. Bugged the fuck out of me. I was like, I'm never gonna get the true story. All right, it was like the shortest episode. I literally pulled the ripcord ejection and figured out and made a show. People liked it, but for me, it was just like, I'll never get that. And I think the problem with Alex Jones would be, I don't want to have the real motherfucking Alex Jones on. I want to hear some real shit. I want to hear him talk about like how much money he truly makes, or how he, I would love to have Alex Jones talk about the business of fear, but I'll never ever get that.
Yeah, he'll never do that.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's what I want. I want to have that like deep discussion like with the enemy, and have that like that Frost Nixon moment where it's like, let's talk about the business of fear.
For the record, if Alex Jones is your enemy, that makes you a lizard people.
That's okay. I mean, we've got so, like, if lizard people is what I am, I'll just pick that race next time I play fucking D&D or some shit. No, but it's one of those things. Like, I would love the real. I would love to just have him just for 10 minutes, just be fucking real. Like just like talk about this, like, in this like deep, way of like, all right, I understand. Cause I've gotten some, being who I talk to and who I have, and I won't say, who I've talked, who's given me this, but I've gotten some like weird, unfettered access at times to people. Provided I never talk about it on the show, and I don't. And it's like, I would love to have that. Even if I didn't record it, I would love to just have that discussion with him and just like go, all right, cool. I won't never say this on the air, and I'll never admit we talked because you'd kill me, or something X, Y, or Z. But I mean, I'd get some fucking real shit, and like that's like.
I think unfortunately, a lot of what he says is him.
Yeah,
and the over the top is
there's always.
It'd be hard to be on 24/7 the way he is, and it's not. I don't see him that much, but every time I do, he delivers with the wackiness. Like
every podcast, every radio broadcast person, every person behind a microphone, including yours truly, has an on-air persona. My on-air persona is a little bit closer to my real persona.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you don't.
Well, I mean, I do in that, like, I do my best to keep as diplomatic as possible on this show. There'll be times where I'll talk about politics. There'll be times where I'll talk about certain issues that are because it's just on my brain, and that's just how I am. But I try my best to not go extreme either way. There are certain opinions I have that, provided we were talking about it more, and there's certain things I will go extreme on. Like if you were talking about a hack and a recent credit bureau that got slammed, and why they got fucking hacked is fucking I won't go into that because but the point is I try my best to keep very much.
I derailed the show with the Equifax.
Oh, that's an Apache Struts kind of derail. No, I'm kidding. But I'll try my best to keep it diplomatic too. I won't talk about my job. I won't really do like there's certain things I hold back as the persona, or if I'm trying to be jokester funny, I'll be a little bit more geeky. Like I wear that on my sleeve. I guess that would be my persona, is I wear kind of being a dork and a geek on my sleeve.
Yeah.
And so,
but in reality, you're super cool.
Oh yeah, totally. No,
You're
I mean, in all honesty, like my real persona is more outgoing than I think I am in general population. Like if you put me in an RTX, you put me in at a very specific convention, I'm good. Because if you put me like in a general like geek convention now, like a PAX or whatever, like I actually get a little bit more reserved. Or you know, there are times where I want to float back into the background and kind of just hang around, not really talk about anything, not really do anything, sort of just be a thing. I think that's my like real sort of thing. But the persona I have is like, oh, I'm outgoing, I'm talking, which is, I mean, part of me. And I think that what I'm trying to ultimately say is that
I would, if I had to guess, say you've always been pretty outgoing.
Yeah.
Like you and I are similar like that. We had a lot of friends from a lot of different walks of life and stuff. You know, we kind of get along with everyone because we're always talking.
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that was the case. But, you know, what I'm trying to ultimately say is that everybody who's on radio, part of their persona is you know, I think Lawrence Sontag from Funhouse sort of explains it. His persona is a feature of him just amped up to 11. On the podcast, I don't have to be on Silly Guy because this is my show. I can kind of be a little bit real and things like that. But when it comes to, let's say I'm going to act a role or be something like a James Rolfe does with Anger Video Game Nerd, like James is not like that 24/7. That's just the persona, you know, version of him getting angry at old video games amped up to 11, which is fine. I think that's totally cool. But I think that part of Alex Jones has to be this like guy that believes something is up. But I think
I definitely think so, but yeah.
I just don't know what. And I'd love to have a discussion with the real Alex Jones, the one that's just not the persona, the leveled Alex Jones, for lack of better words. And that's you know, I don't want the 1776 Pierce Alex Jones. I don't want the guy that's selling me special water that, you know.
Oh my God.
Which I mean, but I mean like I don't mind the idea of him selling special water, because I don't mind the idea of anyone selling special water. If you want to buy special water, by all means, buy special water. I just don't like the idea of him saying, here's my special water, which is vastly superior to the other water. Not because the other water is like low in pH or you know, has potential other, you know, minerals that you may not want in your water, which is fine, I guess.
Except for where I live.
Except for where you live in Flint, but we don't have to get to that. We're talking about that in the hidden, not even the hidden pre-show, and just the off mic. So, but the idea that all other water, which I guess in your case is true, no, I'm kidding, is going to kill you and murder you. Which
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you should start buying some Alex Jones water, Kyle.
He was right.
He was right. He was right. You needed it. You needed Alex Jones water and evil rations, which I think that culture is still fascinating.
Right about one thing, he's right about everything.
I think that part of culture still fascinates me. And I thought about this with the recent hurricanes and even one coming up. The idea of emergency culture, like I didn't tell you this yet, but I didn't think I told it in the air, but after the recent hurricane that passed through Texas and kind of killed my power for a bit, I made 2 big boy purchases.
Generator?
No, because I can't get that from a friggin' apartment. But close. Okay. I bought 2 UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, that literally battery backups for the computer here and for the network, the internet there, because it's just like my internet went down and I was working remotely that night, and it was like just as my shift was ending, so it wasn't such a big deal. But it was that like, shit, I lost power. Like it was, and I was like, I've finally made big boy purchases, so my computer can, you know, power can go out now, and we'd still have at least somewhat of 8-bit life, I think, which is weird to say. So it's episode 300, Kyle, and I think it's only a tradition that we talk about this on every time you're on. So Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering.
Why is that our... Okay.
That's what we did in the day, man. That's what we did.
Why did we do... Well, okay, let's...
Not why. It was a great game, and we were dorks, and it was awesome.
But there were so many other dork things we could have done. Like we could have gotten deep into D&D. Like,
I was like resistant to that for some dumb reason. I don't know why, but I just thought I couldn't... I don't know. I just didn't see how it was competitive. It was more like fun fantasy.
Like,
I'm
I wish
I have to win at something.
Like, I wish I got more into D&D as a kid, and
I wish I did now. I've never played it, and I just think, God, it sounds so fun and it's hilarious, and I love people telling the stories of their worlds, and I think, why the hell didn't I do that, man?
and I think that was what I realized for me, like, as I got older, that I started playing, you know, a lot of those sort of things, and it's one of those things. I'm just like, why didn't I play this way back in the day? Because this is totally more my style. The collective storytelling, the whole this thing like that. Because even when it came to Magic, it was fun and interesting. But like, you were always the competitive guy. Like, you were the one that was like, all right, we're gonna go to this draft. I'm gonna you know, if I don't get top 10, I'm gonna sign up for the next, you know, the next sealed event, whatever. Like, you had a mission no matter what pre it was, and your pre-release
like, means get a box.
Right.
There's no other.
Right. And it was never to get the cards. Like, for you at the time, it was never the idea of, I'm going to get a box to get the cards I need to make a deck. Because you already kind of, you know, you were at a point where it's just like, all right, I'm going to get a box, hope I open the rares that I can then sell to then build the deck I need to compete. Like, you already, because by the time and I think this is the case for modern Magic now. I think by the time anyone goes to any pre, like any like real serious player, they already know the fucking game. Like, we already had like, what did we call it back in the day? I know it wasn't spoilers, but it's spoilers now, but like, what did they fucking call?
We had, well, there was, the best one was always the rumor mill.
Right.
I don't know, I think it was post the dojo. It became like MTG News.
Oh, okay.
And they would always be the place that had the best spoilers, I guess. I don't know.
I forgot there's a term for that.
Know.
I wouldn't, but the idea being that we knew the full set, you know, somehow that information leaked. I always want to believe that, like, that was, to me, that almost felt like WotC leaking that shit, because I don't know how someone got that.
It's got to be. I mean, obviously there's a lot of people testing the sets. Even back in the old days, not like now, they still had an R&D team that would try to solve problems before they truly arise. But
oh yeah, the
I don't feel like in the geek culture world, that kind of leaker personality, I don't know. I don't feel like that would exist on accident.
Yeah, especially what
leak some cards, but before the pre-release, leak the set, because
it was never
part of the hype. That's exciting. That's
right.
fun.
It was because it was never like we would learn about like any keyword mechanics if you just read through the website, whatever, and you'd learn half this stuff just because, like, here's all the teasers. Like, cool, teasers are one thing, but like it were full, like, and it were like full sets, and it's like, no, this has been confirmed. But it's like, you'd go there, it's like, yeah, everything's fucking the correct thing. Like, we already knew what we were gonna roll, and so you already knew ahead of time what things looked like it could be potential. And by the time you played a draft, and by the time you played a sealed deck, you kind of know, you can already kind of tease out what's going to be the killer cards, what's going to be the things that are going to break standard or whatever the format name is now for main bullshit competitive mode.
Everything has changed.
That's hard for me to remember.
What any kid is talking about when they tell me about Magic.
I do, but I don't know why. Like, I have, like, there's no like, it's a part of your brain, like, you know me and remembering bullshit facts. Like, there's a part of my brain that still goes, what's happening in the world of Magic? And I'll jump in. You know, I
surely follow up on it, because it's still a game that was a big part of my life and I had a lot of fun with. So
yeah, I still follow Mark Rosewater on Twitter. You know, and you know, he's still one of my. He's still one.
I literally do not use Twitter still. In fact, the last time I was on your podcast was my first ever tweet, or maybe second, and I think I'm up to like 3, maybe.
Do you want to make a fourth? Do you want to make a fourth tonight?
I do. Yeah, let's do it.
We're gonna do a fourth tonight. We're gonna do that. Right? That's our mission.
Not worth a 5th ever tweet or something, you know, then what is, you know?
There you go. First, that's what our mission. We'll
I got all these like followers. You have such good friends who've always like welcomed me into their community. And
you're always welcome.
Do anything.
Well, because like what I tell people,
use Twitter at all.
Like, you're one of my weird friends that, when I talk to friends about certain internet celebrities and internet personalities, you're one of those weird friends that like knows those people from their respective shows, but not like the weird deep things. Like, for example, like the one thing that always impressed me, I was like, wow, okay, that's random. Like, you were excited when I had Jury on the show, and not because Jury of at the time NSFW show or Night Attack or anything else that he does now, politics. It was Jury because of weird things. And like that was like
still my favorite podcast.
And I was like, that was such a weird deep cut, because it was like interesting. No one I know talks about weird things. Only like people who are deep. And you were never that guy that got like deep into podcast culture or like internet. Not because you didn't like internet stuff, but just that wasn't your thing. And it was
don't make it a priority. Let's say
right, exactly. It's not
it's tough.
And that's okay. That's it's like honestly, if it were,
I wish if I had infinite time, there is so much stuff I just want to consume, media and entertainment wise, and I just don't.
I mean, for me, a lot like I have levels of shows now. I have levels of like programs I consume. There are just shows I watch that are just because I need something on, and I can kind of zone out while watching it. Like I can kind of pay attention to some things like that, like police procedurals or that thing, or my guilty pleasure for that sort of thing. Like I watch like it's weird in that like when there's a joke about like who's the core audience for NCIS, I go. Like I watch NCIS, I watch fucking.
There's like 7 NCIS.
I watch Prime. I watch
episode of any.
I watch NCIS Prime. I watch here and there whenever there's a crossover episode with New Orleans. I'm just glad Scott Bakula's got something he's working on, so that makes me happy, because Scott Bakula really needs something to work on, because I felt bad that like fucking Enterprise got so just screwed over. Like Enterprise really should have been what we see in Destiny now. But I'm just, it's just.
I have no doubt those are sweet shows, because I went through a short phase, maybe a year long, where I couldn't stop watching Law and Order SVU.
Well, because SVU was amazing.
At that time, there was like 800 episodes.
Well, because SVU is great if you go with the mindset of Ice-T in there. Basically, Ice-T is playing.
I bought him.
Well, because Ice-T is playing a watered down version of his role in oh fuck, what was that movie called? Shit. Now I gotta look it up. It's New Jack City. He's literally playing a watered down role of his his acting thing in New Jack City. This old 80s movie or early 90s movie. I think it had as Nino Brown. It had what's his face? Who's it played Blade? Wesley Snipes is as the main villain. Nino Brown. It's like this drug thing, and Ice-T is playing literally. Imagine Finn Tutuola except more tea. Like the T meter is turned up to 11, and he's just cursing and all the things you want Ice-T to do on on SVU, but he can't do it because he's on fucking broadcast television.
Yeah. Basically, be completely unable to act other than just be your fucking self.
That's why I would love.
Is like every line sounds like Ice-T delivering it.
have you?
It's fine.
I don't think it was out last time we had you on, but have you heard Ice-T's audiobook he read?
Absolutely not.
So Ice-T, this is no. You think that's ridiculous? I
think that's ridiculous.
No, we're not even there yet, because it's not that he read his own book. No.
Okay.
No, it's not, and it's not even read like some hip hop book.
Reading.
No, it's not like he read a hip hop book or something like the forward of like the big the World of Pimpin' or whatever. But, none of that. Mm-mm. He read a I think it was either a chapter or a short story out of the D&D books with what's the writers that does Dritz shit fantasy writer I'm just look up Dritz and Elf because it'll come to me and it's way easier if I just look it up. It's out of Forgotten Realms, and it was specifically R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah. Okay.
He read a chapter involving Dritz, like short story Dritz, in a Forgotten Realms book written by R.A. Salvatore.
It's cool that he does that.
No. Do you understand what I just said? It's
from the
Ice-T.
Geek community has reached out to Ice-T, and his answer is yes.
That's
instead of fuck no.
That's the
That's what you would say.
It's great. It's as
cool.
as horror. It is as horrible as you imagine it to be. In that it is
right?
well. I say horrible meaning it is Ice-T. One of the OG motherfuckers, like one of the guys that if you had met him back in the 90s, you would. I mean, I wouldn't want to fuck with him now. I wouldn't. I would have been dead.
Fuck with him now.
I won't fuck with him now. No, I will not fuck with Ice-T because Ice-T
seems
still
like a cool guy.
I will hang out with Ice-T. I would love to meet Ice-T. I would love to have a talk with Ice-T. I will not fuck with Ice-T. No, not like.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You know
I thought by fuck with him.
No. I mean like I don't want like
no, I do not want
in the parlance. I will not step up to Ice-T. I will not. I will not.
I don't want to step up to anyone.
No. But that being said, but that's now. 90s version Ice-T. Not only would I want to not step up to him, like if I did, I might live now because there's a chance it might get back to him if I stepped up to him. Back then, he had enough connections to like make sure that not only was I
he surely still has those.
He probably still does, but he doesn't.
He's got money now.
That's true. But I'm saying like. He probably still does, but there's probably ways where it'd still get back to him just based on modern forensics and stuff like that. But if I were to die, again, we're still looking for fucking, Tupac's killer. We're still fucking looking for this shit, even though we kind of know who the hit.
I don't think we are. Yeah, I don't think
we're still
wondering.
World I
don't know much about.
We're still trying to figure out who killed Biggie Smalls and all that fun stuff. In the grand scheme,
I feel like we know.
We know. We do know.
We may not know exactly who pulled the trigger.
That's what I mean.
We get it, yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird hearing him just like read this like deep fantasy. It's not like hearing like Led Zeppelin sing about like like the hobbits and whatnot because that sort of happened. But it's like this. It's like Forgotten Realms and Ari Salvatore as awesome writers, and my friend Mario Martinez would totally shame me if I said it, but they write like deep, disgustingly deep fantasy, and hearing a hard ass motherfucker like Ice-T talk about drits.
I feel like he would deliver every sentence as if he thought this was fucking stupid. That's how I picture it.
It sounds kind of like that, but not because he thinks it's stupid, but because it's just like, it's like this is the guy. This is a fucking body count man. This is a guy talked about fucking fuck the pole, dropping shit and hitting some hard hitting motherfuckers, and here he is talking about elves and magic and shit. Like, this is totally not tea, but this is awesome. Just on the idea of that alone. If you ever want to just read, have someone just read something horribly, because the thing is that like in that same audiobook, it has like what's her name? She was in Dr. Horrible Sing Along blog. It'll come to me what her
Felicia Day?
Yeah, Felicia Day is also reading a book there. I think a couple other people are too. Like people you imagine would be reading a D&D short story chapter. Like, Will
community.
Like Will it's like Felicia Day, Wilt Wheaton, Ice-T, and it's just like one of these things is truly not like the other in terms of like cachet.
Ice-T nowadays, he did the same exact thing that Ozzy Osbourne did, is he allowed cameras into his life, and you realize he's a pretty normal guy.
Oh no!
He comes from a
that's the thing.
Place,
like we all, I've learned. Nerdcore has taught me if we're to talk about the phases of music with me, like now I'm in this like weird, not really weird, but like more of a hip hop phase. Not saying I listen to other things as well, but because Nerdcore is kind of in there. But because I've like it's funny. Looking back at like history, like there's a good documentary, I think still is on Netflix, but it's HBO, where it's like the history, like the history or the evolution of hip hop or something like that. I forgot the exact title of the miniseries. But like hip hop began when it started getting big at like punk clubs, because punks were like, yeah, you can play her, it's cool, because punks don't care. '80s punks never cared, especially '80s punks.
They cared, but they got it. The message of the hip hop it perfectly kind of aligns with what the '80s punk bands were doing.
Exactly.
And it might be like, yeah, it's pretty different, but we're here for the same reason. Let's do it.
And it was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And because you start listening to it, like, yeah, it has all that kind of same sort of messages, same sort of hard beat and stuff like that. And that's and they start kind of getting more and more. But so I look back on that now, and because of that, being part of nerdcore and sort of all these other weird things, I've met so many people that have had so many different backgrounds, but we have that kind of common vernacular of either video games or anime or other kind of weird geeky pop culture references that I'll learn certain things of like, oh, I didn't know that about hip hop. Oh, I didn't know that about this. Oh, interesting. I didn't know about this artist. Oh, wow. And sort of have all these sort of things that I get to kind of piece together because of being part of that. But yeah, it's silly. It's as bad as you imagine it to be, just because it's not saying Ice-T isn't great. Ice-T is a great individual, but I mean, fantasy T that is not the thing you need to be reading.
That's why they sought him out, because they knew it would be that way, and that's the entertainment value of it.
It's so good.
And I wouldn't want it any other way. If you read it like all awesome, we'd be like,
because it's T reading a book.
What happened? What?
I guess that's the case. I mean, we all read, heard the audio version of "Go to Fuck to Sleep" because that was read by Samuel L. Jackson, and
that book was actually gifted to me when I had my first child.
Of course it was. Have you played it have you read it to your kid? Are you brave enough to?
Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's fine. now that my first child is 3 now, so no, he'll repeat anything we say. So yeah, I wouldn't touch it now. But yeah, this is
Are you at a point now where so? I guess I should ask you as a parent. Are there and this is something I'm curious of, only because I have a lot of friends who are parents, and all of them are geeks.
Because we're old.
Well, I mean, I'm older too, but I don't But this is something that I've been curious of, especially considering like your dad wasn't the biggest dork and geek. Like my dad wasn't the biggest dork and geek.
No.
But like we saw
I feel like maybe, and I don't know your dad well, I met him plenty of times, but I feel like my dad maybe would have been in the world we grew up in, and maybe your dad too. But
it's funny because I don't looking back at what my dad did, like he played football, he did like it's almost the inverse of me in the grand scheme of things, but not in any like bad way. It's just nature of the things. But he was the one that gave me like a computer. He was the one that we somehow he got into computers like that, and that kind of kicked me off.
It's the same way with my dad too. Is he was sports all through and through, but he also is the one who got me a 2600 Atari, and we would sit there and play flag capture. When I didn't really I can barely remember these memories, but sitting there gaming with him, and he wasn't into it at all, but he could see how much I was liking it. So
yeah, I guess
thing. And my dad was an engineer, and yours is
a doctor,
a neonatologist.
Yep, a neonatologist, a doctor.
Not just a doctor.
No, very, very specialized pediatrician. For those who have no idea,
you don't get into these kind of professions without some nerdiness. Maybe our dads applied it more towards success, and making money, and helping the world. But that's
the joke I make to myself, Kyle.
Maybe we would have been super rich and smart, but Super Nintendo came along.
If we fucked, that's because we didn't believe in ourselves. This is our first story that you got on. The only reason I fucking did this podcast, record a goddamn titration story about how we learned that God hated us that day. I still tell that story to this day. I'm not
entirely sure. Did we? I think we knew God hated us previously.
Oh no! Prior to that, that was
the proof.
That was the proof. That was proof positive. That was like we're fucked no matter what.
I think I'm just being a melodramatic.
No, like that was our indication that we were fucked in some capacity, just because of like we didn't have the confidence, we didn't have the tenacity. It wasn't we didn't have the brains. It turns out we had the brains more than anyone else, including the people that had the brains. Which I guess
in that one
weird thing, like
not give us too much credit.
I'll put it this way: we learned. I think the lesson we learned, and I think it's a very valuable lesson now. And this is me putting a positive spin on still one of my favorite jokes and my favorite stories I have. It's one of my honestly treasured stories, the idea, because I have to explain what the fuck a titration, because usually it's like, do you know what titration is?
Fucking treasured.
Because it's one of those things of just like when it's and for those who are curious, just go back to episode 1 of 8-Bit Life. It's far easier if I go back there than me trying to retell it. But it's that story that just had like a setup and this like immense payoff of like when you put everything, because I think like ultimately we gave into groupthink. You know, we thought, well, the group can't be wrong.
And you know who we really owe for that is our freaking Mr. Smith.
Oh God,
no,
I still love
teacher, who
Mr.
is so evil.
No, Mr. Smith is I will flat out say this now, and if you're watching, sir, I don't know where you are in the world, but I can only hope you're watching. Mr. Smith is one of the high school teachers that made me who I am today.
I would agree to that.
And I'll say it, and I'll
actually in our high school, I would say there was plenty of really great teachers.
Oh no, but the reason
awesome.
the reason
Mr.
Smith,
up there for me.
The reason he made me who I am today, and this is something, a memory I will cherish, just because of how much he just at the very end, because he was like literally the year I worked as a TA sort of thing, and I worked the TA during his planning hour, and he was already leaving the next year, so he could not give two shits. He did not give a shit. He did not.
And it's not that we were interpreting that. He told us he didn't give a shit.
No, he didn't give a fuck.
Like, what the fuck
and
ever?
it was amazing because it's
we played baseball.
Fuck that! I fucking played MAME in his fucking planning hour because like we were chit chatting, and this is a great story for me. And for those who have no idea, emulation MAME multi-arcade machine emulator, you should know by now, hopefully. And if you don't, we'll talk later. But it was planning hour, right? And we're somehow talking about some old arcade because I'm even though I'm like it's the 90s or 2000s or whatever, I still fucking know old arcades and shit like that. It's a big deal. It's just what I grew up with, and I still play them to this day. We're chit chatting, and I mentioned like, well, you can play it on your computer, And he's like, really? I go, yeah, we could play MAME if you want. And he proceeds to just go to. Was it Bell? What was the whatever the lock was, whatever the override was for like viewing, like getting beyond sites. Yeah. He typed in his password, whatever, and I proceeded to install. And this is back when like we talk about computers now and we talk about computers then. This is back when like the beginnings of the idea of locking these things down were just sort of rough murmurs. And so they kind of locked things down to kind of protect us kids from doing stupid things. Not really a whole lot, but they kind of did. And this is back when like it was like, you do whatever you want, teachers. I proceeded to install MAME and ROMs and on a school computer. And by all means of the word, technically broke something. And here I am, literally installing like this one old school video game. This old arcade machine, 2 of them. I installed Turtles in this, and we proceeded. I think during either that teaching one or the next one, proceeded to beat Turtles the arcade. We ended up beating it one time, and we ended up playing his other game. He talked about this like weird alien game. I think it's called like Xanax or Zaxian. Xanax is a drug. It's some weird.
It was called Xanax. In other words, you did drugs with our teacher.
Might as well have been. Well, because like the game, like the story began about him talking about this game. On how he would have items in it that never did anything, and he would always like wonder like, well, maybe we're supposed to do something later at level. I would later learn for that same game that there were just portions of the game that they did code for that they just didn't write. Like they had a bunch of these like weird art, weapon stubs, these item stubs. They're just like, oh shit, we got to get to them. Well, fuck, we got to make these boards. Fuck it, leave it there. Who gives a shit? Like it, like literally was like things like we don't fucking know what to do with them. We'll just put them in there. And I'm like, that's awesome because like here's my adult professor who I told him this later on. He's like, really? That's fucked up. I always thought these were important. I go, yep, that's welcome to looking back in dev time. And would be a sign for me as like who I would be later on as a guy like learning about weird video game history. But yeah, it was my favorite like obvious moment because I think even wasn't one of our classes that did the arm wrestling competition with like the other bullshit class.
Yeah, we did that. That was like the honors physics class.
It was
And we
such a
did it with
weird
the
thing.
non-honors physics class.
It was such a weird thing where it's just
And I
like
think we were like, we had one.
I think
like,
I think I took
sound
it.
Guy.
I think I took it
Get
somehow.
out of here.
I
You
don't know.
took a art? What?
I don't know. I took it or something. I know I did something effective. I know I didn't do so bad.
Right, maybe I don't know.
I forgot.
This is a faint memory I have. But
yeah, but I remember we had. But it was such a. I might be confusing it where I was the ringer for the TA version too, which is such a weird fucking thing. It's such a bizarre. It's again one of my favorite moments of just of like this. There are two professors in my history of me, of who made me who I am to a certain degree. Mr. Smith. There's a couple of other professors too. Like my 5th grade science teacher was I forgot her name. I couldn't even tell her name. I remember
Grimes.
I think so. Yeah, I know her husband. I remember the cool fact was that her husband had a California license plate that was EMC2, which is awesome. But the thing is, I remember that was the moment. Like I should have been a indicator in 5th grade that was the moment that I got the joke more so than I should have. Because we literally watched an episode of Bill Nye the Science Guy, and the opening portion of it is a 2001, Space Odyssey reference. So it's like, I don't know, it's a great moment, but I'm laughing my ass off in class, and no one else is laughing around me because no one else had saw 2001. Somehow I, in 5th grade, watched it, one of the most mind-boggling, crazy movies. You watch back now, it's like, what the fuck? What's this monolith thing? Why are they worshiping? All these sort of weird science fiction deep things. And here I am getting the gag as a 5th grader. And that's not for me. That's for the adults watching the show. And I'm like, that should have been an indicator right then and there that I'm screwed. Because here I am laughing at like this deep, deep, deep-seated pop culture, classic pop culture reference that only, weird, nerdy guys know. But yeah, like there's that, Mr. Smith and Dr. Chadwell in college. Just like those, but I can't stress enough how much like Mr. Smith just not giving a shit and letting me fucking install emulators in a high school computer just like seeded this like, okay, cool. I don't if the professor doesn't give a fuck, why should I give a fuck?
So real quick, my favorite story that he told us, and I mean we had heard it from some of the mutual friends from that class, but it was a couple of the girls in the honors chem class. They had seen him driving down the road and they were like so excited. Obviously it's our teacher. Hi, how's it going? How you doing? And he just gave him the biggest middle finger you could possibly give someone. Like he took his time and then left it there and never smiled, never did like a just kidding. He just drilled it.
Well, because I think
that was it.
I think with some of us, and I think this is the kicker. With some of us, he gave. Like he gave the real. Like I know with me, he gave a little bit a taste of the real, and only because like we had a TA moment and we're fucking playing old school video games. We're having these sort of weird sort of things where here is a moment of the real. Like here is a slip of the real. Here is the professor.
It really is, man.
It's
well because you don't think it's like this is two of the nerdy, nice, sweet, cutesy girls, and if you're gonna drill them with the middle finger, it's like what?
Look, look. There are plenty of girls in high school, like, and not because everyone always has a joke of like, oh, high school was the greatest year. I'm not saying high school was horrible or bad. I'm not saying college was good or bad. Thank you, Ash, for hosting the show. Sorry, one of my friends is doing
I don't remember that from high school. What are you talking about?
No. I just respond in the chat room, being thing. Everyone says like high school was the greatest year. High school was this, blah blah blah. High school was just a show.
It's a thing everyone has to do. Nobody wants to be there, but we're all there together.
And I think that's the thing is that
that's why when you look back on it, it's great. But at the time, you're just fucking tired.
Right. Well, because it's like high school. High school is that. High school ultimately was that weird point in time where you kind of learn certain things, like how many times in your educational career can you say that you've read The Great Gatsby? Because I can say 3.
Well, let's put it this way: more than once, and that's too many.
I love Great Gatsby. I will not. I'll positively say F. Scott Fitzgerald is one of my all-time favorite authors. Definitely one of my all-time favorite.
I'll say this: F. Scott Fitzgerald.
You could say fuck F. Scott. No, I love F. Scott. I love F. Scott for everything he was and everything he wasn't.
It's not even that I don't feel like it's a bad book or anything. It's just, it's a book I would never read.
There are more interesting. I will say in hindsight, there are far more interesting things written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's a really good poem, a short book of poems that he wrote. It's really amazing. There's some really cool things he wrote over time. But Gatsby, everyone kind of has their opinion of like, oh, this, whatever. There's certain things I love about the book. Like I love the idea of having this character of Jay Gatz that really isn't who he is, and sort of like putting on this image because that's sort of what everyone sort of built him to be. And when you really meet the man, he's kind of broken. Like I tend to like those kind of characters in general, as things.
Obviously, it's a great book.
Well, again,
I've insulted it.
No.
It's a great book.
This is the thing is that like I have read it at like 3 points in my life. I've read it in middle school, I read it in high school, and then I read it in college. And each three of those like made me understand, looking from those like different perspectives of being that age, sort of helped me. Like middle school version, like, oh, fuck this book, who gives a shit? Eyes of TJ Eckleberg, who gives a damn? Green light, whatever. High school means like, okay, well, there's some interesting things here, whatever. And then college means like, oh wow, there's actually some really interesting concepts about how the 20s and just sort of this idea of the 1920s and this generation is just completely and utterly like lost because the war happened, and what do we do now? Oh, and the Depression's kicking in. And, you know, it's this weird point in history that you're just like really. Because ultimately, you know, like if you look back in history, you know, World War I happens, and then World War II eventually, you know, happens very short, you know, in the grand scheme of things, very shortly after, because it's really just a continuation because no one really knew what to do after that. Like it's just sort of this literally, as it's called, the lost generation. And it's an interesting look of that. As time has gone on, you know, added to that list of favorite American authors or people like Hunter S. Thompson and other things like that. But it's fun to kind of, you know, see that progression of like, here's a person, you know, on the outside looking in, and then later on in life we have Hunter S. Thompson, the guy just, you know, smashing the glass, and that kind of the idea of what I think it's like it's interesting, especially if you look at like that in Fear and Loathing, of like what the American dream really is, and did it ever, you know, for me it's always like, did it ever exist? Did this concept of what we call the American dream was it ever really a thing, even back in our memory? And no, it's not. And I
don't think so. I think life is so different than what we kind of grew up being told that it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm here. I would say I've achieved my dream of just having an awesome wife who I love, who's cool as hell to hang out with, and I have 2 kids.
Did you expect by episode 300 we were talking about deep topics like the American dream and
Yeah, I did. I got ready for it.
Yeah, you had
I
kids.
never know what the hell. Like, there is no like,
No.
Hey, here's a quick show notes. We're gonna talk about this.
No. For those who are
this is just shooting the shit. I don't ever get to talk to you either. Not that I don't get to. I just don't because
I mean, that's anybody. That's for those who are watching on other hosted streams and are new to the show or watching previous recorded, that kind of stuff, and wondering what the hell this is. This is a weird show that is 300 strong. And honestly, it's so funny looking back because, like, if I went back to talk to the, you know, episode 1 me, and told him, hey, guess what? One day you're going to record an episode in the middle of a park in a weird suburb of Japan. I can't and I forgot what portion it was. Where high. I look
just
back.
Say the one that Gwen Stefani likes.
Yeah, you're gonna, you know, you're recording literally in a park
Everyone will be all about
in Koenji, right outside of Koenji High, where Square Sounds Tokyo will be happening. Oh, and guess what? You'll be on stage. They're recording your friend playing there. Oh, and by the way, your friend will be a big giant hip hop artist that people know and love. And that's going to happen. And
you flatter me.
You know, I would look back at my number 1 version of my episode 1 version, talking with Kyle, and say like, really? That's okay.
How
sure.
is it going to go from such a shitty start, so much accomplishing your dreams, and then when you get to 300, you just fuck it all up again and invite me on here,
dude? Kyle, I never talk about anything. Jokes. But I think that's why I enjoy this so much, and why I have such a fun time having you on when I have you on, because I get to sort of go back and trace where it all went, not where it all went wrong, but where just like just the idea of having, because I don't think I think the only time I've ever had a teacher, I've never had a teacher ever not give a shit. And the only one I can even say is Mr. Smith. And I even forgot his name for the longest time until you brought it up. I mean, I could have told you my high school, I would have remembered. I think it's knowing those sort of things. I'm like, there's no one else now that's going to have that kind of candid speech about a professor, because there's going to be those people I'll talk to is like, oh yeah, Mr. Smith is great, or oh yeah, because they're being recorded and they all get scared that one day Mr. Smith will magically watch this podcast and hear it and say, oh, I remember that bitch, she was a horrible student, she got no one's ever gonna, or like, I remember that horrible guy, he was a complete prick, like we're not, and two, especially in high school. College, different story, because college, I can say I got to see a lot of the real professors, especially Dr. Chadwell, especially during that point in time, being the whole shock and awe. I remember that day was like I passed by Dr. Chadwell and we're just like completely depressed, as it should have been. But in college you got more of the real with professors, because you're all adults, so we're all going to treat you all adults. That's cool.
You're paying to be there,
right?
They're getting paid whether you show up or not, whether you try or not.
Right, and I have friends who are now
adults dealing with adults. It's
right, not adults dealing with kids, and so you rarely got to see the real. But Mr. Smith, and only because I was a TA, and we had that weird emulator moment, like I got to see a little bit of the real, which is cool as a high school kid, especially as a kid that already kind of knew who he was and kind of didn't really need to go through the bullshit of like trying to find himself anymore. In that it's just, every version since high school is just a building upon that base of being this weird, dorky, kid that is into metal, into punk, into electronica, into computer culture in a hacking way, into all these other kind of things, and has this like really distributed base of interests, and building upon that as years have gone on. But having that moment with like a professor, a high school professor, and having that like weird, like, we're fucking playing emulators in high school, this is awesome. Like I would never, like no other professor would ever.
And while you're doing that, I'm playing Magic cards in the library.
Right, exactly, same idea. It's the same kind of concept where it's just like we all had these, like with certain professors in certain classes. It's especially in high school, like, and even in elementary, like elementary, I got a little bit of it, but like especially when it came to just high school, and just him, like he just did not give a shit, and it's beautiful and amazing, because you could never do that now, and I think that's the kicker, is that you could never ever do what he did. That's a
good point. I didn't think about that, but yeah, he would be destroyed by now.
Like imagine if you have a kid now, right? And eventually that kid will go on and join some sort of educational thing. I'm not saying it's going to be elementary school. I'm not saying it's homeschooling. Hopefully, eventually, it's going to be with other people. Again, whatever you do.
Nope.
Rock on.
I'm completely isolating my child from all of humanity.
Look, if that's what you choose to do, you choose to do. But let's imagine a parallel world where you don't do that, Kyle.
Okay.
Let's imagine.
I can follow. Yeah.
Let's pretend. What would you do if you had like a Mr. Smith kind of teacher?
I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled, because that is an education beyond just what we were learning. Not only is it proof in the pudding that we did our titration correct and great, but he also taught us a valuable lesson. And if we don't believe in ourselves, then the world will just fuck us and not give a shit anyway.
That's a damn good lesson. I didn't think
we fucked ourselves. Really, he just let us.
I guess it's true. I guess what he hats off to Mr. Smith, the old school video game professor of professors, because that's kind of what it is. Is that there was no, oh, I'm sorry, you're having too difficult this game. Would you like to have a giant, coffee cup that gives you superpowers or whatever? I forget what that was. It's the golden mushroom in Mario that just magically appears if you're having too difficult, to let you warp past the level, which is such a ridiculous concept of like, skip this level. Yeah, it's just, I had not thought about that professor until you were here, and it's I think that's why I have you on every so often, Kyle.
Let me tell you a just short story about,
it's okay.
At my work, right? I run a music store here in Michigan. We do a thing called Rock School, and we had a kid there.
Hold
like,
on,
who was
I love the name of like we do this thing called Rock School, and
right.
and the thing is
Brilliant.
that like for those who have before Kyle continues the story, I want to preface this is that the story you're about to hear comes from the man that actually took me to my first metal concert. This comes from the man that introduced me to things like Mushroom Head and what was the other fucking what was the other band what was the Flint band? What was the Flint band that like went nowhere but was like awesome as hell? I mean, that was everyone. Really. Fuck.
Somehow Michigan has a great between Detroit, Flint. There is a lot of really good bands. I don't know,
like,
but
it was like
yeah, something really silly,
something stupid. Like again,
a terrible band name.
Yeah,
really cliche. They got
exactly.
On stage, just tore it up. Yeah, they were great.
It's great. All right.
I don't know. But
I just want to make sure. I just want to preface the fact that the man that has a show called Rock School.
For one, I will never be able to say that KMFDM was in my trunk.
Oh, God, that's true. Right. That's very true. I have that fucking bullshit story. Thank you, Tammy.
One of my all-time favorite bands.
I had the drummer from KMFDM in my goddamn trunk, literally naked. No.
Still making good music. And by the way, I didn't know it was naked. That's a...
No, sorry. No, KMFD... No, the drummer... No, I take it back.
It was a different guy.
No. It was the drummer from KMFDM rode in the front seat. The drummer from Combi Christ, or one of the guys from Combi Christ, got naked in my trunk.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were there. That's obvious.
Yeah, Combi Christ opened up for KMFDM, and so basically we walked by. I'll retell the story I've told before, but I'll tell it really quickly and we'll get back to your Rockstar story. Basically, we leave the concert with my friends. It was myself, Tammy, another friend, Kat, and I forgot the guy's name, but I think it was like one of their friends. And we had like room for one person, and basically we walked by the venue of like we saw the drummers from respective bands or just chit-chat, cigarettes. Like, hey, so we're going with you guys to the after party, right? I go, yeah, sure. Why not? Absolutely. Come on in. I can only have one of you guys. And then the drummer's like, I'll ride in the trunk. I go, okay. And in the trunk, for some reason, I had like a sleeping bag there. I don't know why. I've since traded that car, but I got them to sign like, the roof of my truck, my car. It was a Maxim at the time. But we were driving around, and eventually KMFDM comes on, and because it was at a shuffle, it's like, that sounds familiar, haha. And we ended up getting out of the thing, and I popped the trunk, so I'm just like, because I'm hitting bumps. I'm like, you okay back there? He's like, yeah, bud. I go, okay. I'm not gonna argue with a rock star. Say, I'll ride the trunk. I'm like, okay, well, who am I to fucking argue with the guy that just made an awesome show? And so we get there, I pop the trunk, and my friends go, back, whatever, and I hear kind of this audible gasp. I'm like, and my brain goes like, oh shit, did he hurt himself? Did something happen? Hopefully he's not dead or at that, but my brain doesn't think death immediately. But I'm like, shit, someone got injured. I just fucking injured the guy in my fucking trunk. It wasn't my fault. And I go back there, and he's naked, just stark naked, butt ass naked, to the point where I think they cover him up a little bit. He comes out naked. I didn't look too close because you just get a glimpse, and you're like, nope. I don't need to see no anything dangling, anything hanging. Man's naked. I think they end up covering him up in the sleeping bag to a certain degree, and then they put a jacket over him and left the sleeping bag. I think I've since said I threw away said sleeping bag just because I don't want to know.
Should've saved it.
I don't know. I think it's best if I didn't, Kyle. I think it's best if I didn't. I think that's. I'd
have paid top dollar for that. All right. Anyway.
Well,
not
then
really.
I think it's best that just that's left to the sands of time, as it were, and we let the world decide what to do with it. All right, but yeah, that's just like fucking drama story. All right, back to Rock School.
So anyway, yeah, I would say kind of musician, but mainly I'm a run a business. But
right,
no story I have will be as cool or as metal as having KMFDM and Combi Christ, two of the leading industrial metal bands of all time, really. I mean, KMFDM's been around for like 30 years.
Oh God, yeah, they've
just put an album out, just did, and it's great.
It was funny because I was thinking about
it still.
I was thinking about KMFDM recently because I had asked the question, and it's a great question to ask about this one song, and it's whenever you hear the Orbital song Halcyon and on, which the song. It's that weird like that dee dee da 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 da. Like if you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, it's from blah. And so I asked a question on Twitter, like, all right, when I play this song, what movie do you think of? And there are multiple answers for it. Basically, it is the three answers, the acceptable answers. They have a couple more. Are either A, 1, the ending from Mortal Kombat, 2, the opening for Hackers, and 3, even a scene from Mean Girls. I think the ending for Mean Girls also plays Orbital's Halcyon and on and on. And I guarantee if you look up the song, you know what I'm talking about. But
great movie and Mean Girls.
But I was talking about Mortal Kombat. I was like, fuck, that's right. There's a lot of weird shit on there, like Joint Jezebels by KMFDM. And I never knew that it was a Tracy Lords remix done by, or Tracy Lords / remix done by, like basically it's a Tracy Lords song, but the beat was done by, who's it does Pistolero? Oh my God. I want to blank because they do Guardian Angel, Juno Reactor, or not Juno. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there's the Reptile song is a Tracy Lord. Like there is a really weird techno album where Tracy Lords does vocals on it, but like Juno Reactor did the bass for this one song for basically what Reptile's music is in the movie, which is awesome. But it's weird when like there's a lyrical version with Tracy Lords singing because it's like Tracy Lords a porn star, doing fucking techno. It's already weird and strange. But yeah, it was funny because I was thinking about that. I just came at DM stuff and stuff. I think they're coming to Austin pretty soon. I'm gonna have to look into when they're coming.
They're on tour.
I'm gonna look when they're playing.
Just put out an album. They did like a greatest hits too.
Interesting.
Kind of thing. They've done a few of those. But the new
because I
KMFDM rocks, so they remix their own songs. But again, it's just one of those. Just like, man, everything on here is just great. If you like that kind of music at all, it's just.
I may have to check it out.
They've been doing it for so long, and it's still great.
Well, because I never really liked World War III as much as everyone else did. There's some things I like about it now.
I love them.
But in hindsight, like there's some things I appreciate about that album, and I'd be curious as to what they're doing new. Just like
one of the only things where they play acoustic guitar.
Really? Yeah.
Industrial album.
Well, because it's funny because like the last older band from the '90s era that we talk about that like I had sort of watched a new thing for was Prodigy, and I have literally the vinyl and I have the actual record, the album itself. The Day Is My Enemy, which is an amazing album. It's a great album because it's
better than The Fat of the Land, which is
because it's great about that is it's very much old. It's that merging of like really techno Prodigy, which not a whole lot of you guys listen to, except for people like me that listen to things like Rough in the Jungle.
Right now we are talking to like 2 people.
Oh no, we're talking to like 5.
Totally like yeah.
Yeah, like 2 people are like, why do you keep talking about these fucking bands? And
shut the fuck up, guys. This is so stupid.
It's okay, dude.
That's how I feel because you work at a music store and some of my favorite bands are Nine Inch Nails, KMFDM.
And here you are like teaching.
Not that musically great.
And here you are, well, because like in metal, like the only guy you have that's like even remotely like hyper, technical is like Yngwie Malmsteen or some shit like that, where it's just like, that's like all right, time for arpeggios from hell. Like that's the only.
He's in a category of like so good it's unlistenable.
Yeah,
because I don't need to hear that.
No,
it's like it's like the Hanon piano practice where you just do your scales. And he's so good. I mean, obviously, there's
but like after watching like Yngwie Malmsteen, like you never learn from Yngwie Malmsteen. You never learn how to play guitar.
All right, so at the music store, we call this the Dream Theater effect, right?
Yes.
Like if you're so good at your instruments that you can't write just a beautiful song. And it's not even to say I like Dream Theater. They've put out some good songs, some good music, but for the most part, John Petrucci is so good at guitar that he overplays.
We were at a place. I was with the RT Austin people. I was chit chatting with one of the other guys who's also kind of in metal, and we were hearing this like really weird, like it's kind of a hand place, but this really weird playlist of fucking old school Misfits and stuff like that, and we were looking, and at one point I was like, Let's see if they have Dream Theater on here, because I almost wanted to pay to just have this like 20-minute like bullshit song playing. It's like, when the fuck is this gonna end? Because that's just Dream Theater. It's just this continuous cycle of noise.
They're a prog metal. They're one of the leading bands in that, and their new album is very good, and all their fans hate it.
Of course.
They're like, they've sold out, they've given up. Mike Portnoy, the drummer, is not in the band, so they suck now. But really, it's like a very musical, pretty well thought out album, and it still has its Dream Theater moments where they're so going off on their instruments that your brain hurts a little bit.
Because it gets to the point where you're just like, I'm just done. I'm done with this song. We don't have to go for 5-10 more minutes.
I can't comment on that because my favorite genre of music is like progressive rock, progressive metal.
Well, I don't remember if it was you or somebody else that got. I think it had to have been you. That got me like Dim Borgir and Crazy.
Yeah.
And what was the other band?
See my Norway flag that I chose to sit in front of.
Because it was Dim Borgir, it was Dream Theater, and there was that other one that was weird.
In that like symphonic-y kind of heavy black metal stuff, I would put Cradle of Filth. Maybe.
Cradle of Filth is what I'm thinking of. That's the bigger
very
one.
Very screechy, very operatic, but also heavy.
Yeah, it was always
really,
you. It was you that got
back in the '90s. I mean, that was like cutting edge. That was some amazing music being put out. I mean, I still love it to this day, but I am grown up a little more, and I don't always need an eagle screeching in my ears 24/7.
I don't know. For me, I still occasionally listen to fucking we were seeing if they had it. We didn't play it. I almost wanted to. Was if they had fucking was it Jim Carrey's favorite band back in the day?
Cannibal Corpse.
Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Love that.
Okay, man. And again, death metal, the entire genre.
Well, I love Cannibal Corpse because Cannibal Corpse basically, and for those who are more modern, the modern day equivalent to Cannibal Corpse is imagine, if you will, that the band from Metalocalypse was real. And that is Cannibal Corpse.
They're heavily influenced. The lead singer of Metalocalypse is themed after the lead singer of Cannibal Corpse.
Right, like basically.
And the best part about Cannibal Corpse is they're the nicest, coolest, most down-to-earth guys.
Of course they are.
And they love my favorite sport, which we haven't talked about, but it's a tradition. We got to bring out ice hockey.
Of course.
They're huge. They live in Tampa. They're huge Lightning fans. And like the whole story with Jim Carrey is he like demanded that they be the band in Ace Ventura, and they were like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
it's amazing.
Why? Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll go out there.
It's one of those amazing.
We were treated like royalty when everywhere else we just play dingy, dark clubs, and the only people that get us are metal nerds and geeks of music. It's not some crazy. A Satan worshiper isn't going to listen to that kind of music like everyone wants to paint them. It's some geek of music who realizes, they're pretty unintelligible, insane. Their lyrics are horrible and vile. Yet I get what they're doing, and it's fun and it's cool. And I want to just go to their show and have a mosh pit, push on people, but they're your friends, but you hurt them. It's just weird. It's a very weird, hard to explain thing. But it's so much fun, and it's so cool.
So one of my friends who was part of a band, Descendants of Erdrick, Amanda Lepre, I love her to death. She with her band did a show, a tribute to, and I'm kind of mad that I was now finding out about them. I think the band's Ghost, or maybe I'm wrong.
Papa Emeritus.
Yeah, where it's just like this weird.
Pope.
Yes, that's what it is. Okay, we're right, because it was like they
go. Well, now they legally have to be called Ghost BC. So search them that way because of some lawsuit or something.
That's okay, but I had no idea who they were, and then my friend Robert Swaghammer, before the show, kind of got me up to speed. Sort of spun me up a bit, where it's just like, if you understand, you get the joke.
Yeah.
And then I watched Amanda play the band, and I got the joke even more because it's just like, okay, because I'm hearing the lyrics, cool. I'm like, this is just like someone read the Our Father and inversed it, and I'm like, I get it, and I'm like, okay, I understand now. I get the gag.
Yeah, that's another one of those. It's like Cannibal Corpse. You have to get what they're doing, and then the music is still good.
Yeah,
the vocals I think are all right, but to me the image and the concept is what's tops about them.
But that's why I love great. What's I got the gag because we're all laughing.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, like, I'm allowed to get a man to talk about this shit too.
And a big thing is they shift in and out musicians, but it's all like a mystery. We don't know who that really is. They have the fake names and all this.
Right.
And we think we've tracked down who the lead singer is, and he's from some other projects and that. And he's friends, obviously, with all the metalheads and that. But like, who's a good band to compare them to?
Like Gwar is also that band.
Well, that's one in terms of image, yes.
Right, in terms of image, not in terms of style, but like the idea of like you'll never truly know who the fuck Gwar is. You could like
no one knows who's that.
I forgot.
Queens of the Stone Age.
Okay.
So in the same vein that's like a bunch of musicians come together to write some songs. So that's basically what Ghost is, but they took it a step further, which I think is great because I think part of music is the show. They pose as these just like uber Satanists in their music, and he's the anti-pope, and they're just so evil. It's a satanic orgy to.
It's the joke.
And you hear their songs, and you would think this is like soft rock. It's like it's hard rock, but really it's musical.
Yeah, no, it's good music, and I think that's the great part about it is when I heard the play, I was like, this is pretty good, and I was like, this is pretty good, and then I started reading articles about them before the show because I was like, I have no idea who this is. I'm not that deep in metal, and I get all these sort of like, and then we're at the show and she's reading like lyrics and like the prayer. I'm like, okay, that's just literally the inverse of the Our Father. There's no mystery what that is. If you're any kind of Catholic, you're like, okay. I think I get what they're doing.
They're not trying to be.
No, they're not trying to be. They're not edgelords. They're just
exactly. That's a good way. They're not at being edgelords.
Yeah, they're not edgelords. They're not trying to be this like, oh, look, we're edgy. It's like, no, this is a gag. If you're in on the joke, great. If you're not, that's fine too. But like the minute you're getting the joke, it's like, okay, this is fucking great. This is hilarious. Like my friend Robert was like, this sounds like Pentecostal in certain ways, and it's just like that's hilarious. I'm just like,
and in the same way that like Gwar, like you brought up, is a joke. Yep. And the lead singer who passed away sadly from drugs, which just breaks my heart because he was such a cool guy. Also read Goodnight Moon. Speaking of children's stories, but what was it? Odorous,
right.
Ungrus, or whatever his name was. But yeah, like it is a joke, and he plays that character, and in interviews especially, he's hilarious. They still take their music seriously, whereas they are writing this heavy metal rock headbanging anthems. We're from outer space. That's the show, and it's for real, and it's not a joke. They don't make their music a joke. Like Tenacious D is comedy music. Gwar is a heavy metal band.
Well, it's like P-Lander Z is pop punk if you put that in the case, but like it's not untechnical, but P-Lander Yellow is my spirit animal, and I'm so glad he lives in Austin, Texas now because honestly, having him live in my town makes me that much happier. Okay, before we go, because we're almost out of time, we've literally hit the hour mark. We got to hear this fucking rock.
That's bullshit. This is a 2-hour show. It's episode 300.
If only Robert didn't actually have to work tonight, then yes, it would be probably a 3-hour.
Work? This is work. You're a podcast host. What else could you possibly do? Make a living off of this.
If only. Anyway, that's still 300 episodes down the line. I still haven't figured out that solution yet. Maybe
20 minutes into music talk. But anyway, a story about where I work. We do a thing called Rock School, which we take kids. And they don't have to be in lessons with us, but just any kids, we put them in bands in the same age. And one of our favorite parents, he's a pull no punches kind of cool dad who will just come in and just swear and just be himself, and that's always a genuine person, very cool guy. And his kid is like in his teens, too cool for school guitar player. And so he didn't really practice, it's an 8-week course, and then we put on a concert. Day of the concert, all right? He's kind of having this like, oh, fuck, I'm not ready. And so he's trying to ask the guy who runs Rock School, and at the time it was a guy named Bill who has 80s mullet. He literally looks like Yngwie Malmsteen. And that's not a joke.
I'm sorry, I'm more laughing.
It's not a joke at all.
80s mullet. Like this guy came out of the hair metal era.
No, I wish I could upload a picture immediately to you. Because he would wear like a bright silver, shiny, mirrored suit coat, like on Tuesday. And like all of our neighbor businesses would ask us about him, like, what is up with that dude? And I'm just like, he's awesome. Like he's the real deal. So not only is he
we went to the time machine. We took
a marching band director for a long time, and he did a Metallica show, a Cradle of Filth show, and
Oh, wow.
eventually got fired because it was the Bad Axe School District. They fired him over some bullshit, and it was a big lawsuit and whatever. So he was fighting this lawsuit and had nowhere to go. So we had this like crazy talented musician, plays everything, does everything, working for us. And so he's hosting our rock school, and he had just had enough of this kid's bullshit. And basically, the kid is like, "What's the order of the songs? How do I play this? How do I do this? I'm confused, and I'm up here on stage, and we're going live in like an hour." And Bill's running, it's chicken with a head cut off time, right? We're putting on a concert, so we have lights, we have a smoke machine, we have to test everything. We're hooking up like 75 XLR cables. It's like, you need to shut up, kid.
Yeah.
So
we got shit to do,
us, right?
And I've been on stage, and I've been in times now because I have a lot of musician friends now, and I've been behind the scenes. I know how stressful that can be, even in my small world of this. It's like, all right, flip on switch, launch software, get everything going, plug everything in.
You can't imagine just how many checks and little things that can go wrong, and you're just doing all that. And Bill's in this zone, and he's done it a billion times. He's in his 50s. He's a just cool dude, but he's just like, and finally, all right, so we're at the 0 hour, basically. We've tested everything. I am now sitting out in the audience near this kid's dad, and he's still up there, right? And he's kind of gone into silent mode, right? He's pissed off. No one's answering his questions, but he's also a little nervous, like, I don't quite know what to do. And he just says something to Bill, and Bill just snaps. And he's like, you know what? Fuck all this, And I don't know exactly his words, but there was profanity, and it was more of a just like, you had all this time to practice. I told you how many times. I gave you how many set lists. You just keep losing them. You don't do anything. This is it. You're going to go up there, and you're either going to succeed or fail, and it's your own fault. Whatever happens, leave me the fuck alone. I'll see you at showtime. And he just goes back to working, and the kid was just like, oh shit. And I look over at Dad like, because again, it's the business. It's not just like, that was awesome, but it was like, don't sue us.
Right.
He's like, yes, give it to him. He loved it, man. He loved it. He thought it was awesome.
Well, because he probably was
like, that's the best life lesson you can give this kid is you can't fuck around and think you're just going to show up on the day of and learn everything.
No, not at that. Not at showtime.
This kid, he doesn't need like a whole, hey, practice makes perfect kind of lesson, right? He needs somebody to be real with him. In the same way that, we're saying we got this life lesson from Mr. Smith. It was the same kind of moment. And I realized, like, that's just how deep this guy's life experience is that he knew, at this point, I cannot fuck with this kid. I've tried. I've put the time in. I've stressed about him. I've gone the extra mile to print things for him and get him ready. He doesn't do it. He doesn't put the effort in. And now we're at the point where it's like, fuck him. And some parents or teachers or whatever might say, all right, I'm going to hold your hand through it. Don't worry. I'll play your part on guitar while I'm playing, keyboard. I'll just record my keyboard part and cover for you. No, fuck that. If you go up here and suck, that's what we're going to remember you for. And it's because of the effort you put in. And it was fantastic. And not only that, but his dad, who's a college professor, mind you, he just thought it was just the greatest moment ever. And he's like, man, I love it. Because when it comes from somebody that's not me, his dad, who doesn't know anything, that's great. And he's like, I can tell by the look on his face that affected him, in a way that's like, I'm offended because you yelled at me and I'm embarrassed, but I get it. He gets it. And sure enough, the kid did great. He did fine.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's a
we
lot.
Don't make it hard on them. It's rock school, It's we teach you songs with power chords. We're not expecting you to go up there and wail some freaking Axl Rose solo. You go up there to jam and look cool and have fun, and we put lights and smoke, and you're cool.
Yeah, no, of course, that's the idea.
But if you literally don't practice, all this kid does is hang out, have fun with his friends, chase girls, and it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Now you're standing here with your guitar about to go on a stage.
Yeah, now
and you're freaking out. Where were you all these other times when we were trying to help you and tell you and warn you and all this? And you're here because you want to be too. We're not making you do this.
Right.
You wanted to be in this band. You wanted to help, be a part of a team, play your guitar. You want those pictures for your Facebook group. That's just always a big thing. Is you want to be able to show all the chicks in high school that you're on that guitar. But guess what? It's not going to be as fun as you thought it was if you don't put the time and effort in. And
and I think that's the lesson is that, especially with those sort of things, like you gotta actually give a shit. Like, because I've been on stage, There have been times where I've been nervous being on stage, even though I'm not going to do anything, even though I'm not going to say anything. There was one year for Japan Night where Audrey literally asked me, and all I had to do was go behind a mic behind, not even behind stage, but like way off stage, just to introduce each band, and I can't. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it this year because I researched and whatever, but like it was stressful for me because it was like, okay, shit. I literally asked Audrey, I go, okay, I don't want to fuck this up, and my Japanese isn't great. It's better now, and I can read hiragana, katakana a little. I can read hiragana to a certain degree. I can read some katakana. I sure as hell can't read any kanji without it. Maybe I can kind of fumble my way through it now, and certain things, especially like because recently a band that I listened to, Cornelius, came out with a new album 10 years later, and I'll hear certain words like I think I understand that word, and I'll look in the lyrics, and I'll go like, okay, I know that's the word, but I know that's not spelled the way I usually see it. Okay, so that must be the kanji that means this, and I'll be able to translate, real time in a certain way. I say, cool, that's what that kanji character means. Awesome, and I'll at least keep that to a certain degree. Like I can recognize Nippon or Japan basically in kanji and hiragana just because I've gotten to that degree. But that being all said, I didn't want to fuck it up. I didn't want to be that asshole on microphone saying like, let me read this wrong. And right. I'll go, let me make sure. Audrey, am I right? Is it this? And there was one band, Mahas, I forgot the band.
Nahasa Pima Pedalan?
No. It's, I could look back up.
That's a poo from Simpsons. Come
right.
on.
It's, the band I stressed over was Sushi Mamiren. Which I didn't say their name because they went up on stage and started rocking. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't say their name. I felt bad. I didn't say it, but I was like, if I can care, if they want to play, I can't fucking stop them. Who am I to stop the rock? But because like I stressed over that, I repeated it, like because everything else I got was like repeat. Figure out where they're from. Okay, from this part of Tokyo, this part of Japan, from Osaka, from Tokyo, from Hiroshima, etc. Like and this isn't just like the moments before the show beginning off, and I'm already fucking like trying my damnedest. So you have to at least do some sort of prep. I get the idea of being nervous and not, being thrown into a situation, but it's just like, all right, well, here I am. What do I do now? All right, adapt. Yeah.
Like for me, it's don't do the prep. I mean, you can if you want, and I will say this, like have a brief outline of what you want to say or do. But if you try to prep, you'll try to think back to like, what should I say? Who's next? But it's like, you can't do that in front of people.
No,
you have to just talk.
No.
If
if honestly,
you're entertaining, that's why they asked you. Go out there and just be you and talk about these bands coming out. And you can look at a piece of paper and read their name. No one's going to kill you for that.
Rick Kanon asks in the chat room, hey guys, do you have any Fenders?
That is my uncle.
Of course it is.
And obviously we're related, but yeah, that is a very common question we get from the guitar geeks that walk in the music store.
Of course you do.
Where's your Fenders? We're not a Fender dealer, goddammit.
Where can I get my custom pickups? Where do I get the pedals?
We special order all that stuff.
Of course you do. But so, that being said, like, and this is the last thought because we are out of time. We are at the hour and so on mark. If it honestly weren't for this show, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. If it weren't for the fact that I've gotten used to talking in front of a microphone for 300 plus episodes now and gotten to the point where I'm confident behind one of these things and knowing what to say and how to say it and when to say it and on the fly, because like right now I don't have a script in front of me and I'm uttering all this out.
This was my compliment to you, like at the last time you had me on the show, which my number one complaint about your show is that you have me on the show. But as I'm complimenting you, is that you've become a true host. It's no longer you're just rambling about what you like and you're here because you're having fun. You're a good host. You move the conversations. You ask the right questions. You prompt your guests. It's fantastic.
And that's taken years and years of doing this. It's not. This wasn't a.
Yeah, even the most outgoing person isn't a good host when you put a microphone in front of them.
No, I've learned mic discipline. I know how a pickup pattern is. I've learned a lot of this stuff. And
speaking of deep podcasts, it's something that Justin Robert Young talks about on After Things.
Yep. Which
I also love is again, it's the whole like solo podcasting. You and a microphone. How the hell are you supposed to be entertaining? How do you do that? Well, you have to love it and love what you do, but again, it's being yourself, and you've succeeded at that while also keeping things alive. It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's one of those things when I did that, just the one-off thing, and just doing that, Mike. I've never done it again. I would love to do that more. There's a couple other goals I have in terms of stuff. Like right now, I'm working on potentially pitching a panel to PAC South and wanting to do more of those sort of things. Be more of an MC, sort of a moderator for bigger panels. Is kind of my next goal. But doing that and realizing that I'm only nervous because I want to make sure that I give the right pronunciations, because I like these bands, because this is something I enjoy.
Yeah.
This is something, I mean, I have 3 fucking posters behind me that are all the same, times of the event. It's not like I don't love this thing. Signed in accordingly. So it was important for me to know that I want to make sure I say these bands right because I care. And I know that if anyone else came up here, they may not give a shit because...
Yeah, it'd be the local FM radio host going, "Hey guys, here we are at Japan night." Woo!
Right, exactly.
Like, man. They don't get it.
Right, and I think that's the thing is that, like,
you get that feeling a lot. Yeah, this guy's a good host. He he talks clear. He's entertaining. Blah blah blah. But it's cooler to have somebody up there who's passionate and is into it.
Yeah, that was my lesson. Okay, we're done. Kyle, as always, a complete and utter pleasure to have you on the show. Let's say people are watching and they've gone, wait a minute, this guy runs a music store? I don't know there's Fenders there, but I wouldn't mind getting something else, or more importantly, maybe I need to get some new strings. Maybe I have a kid and I want to put him in rock show. Maybe there's something I want to do. Let's say they live in your neck of the woods. Where can people find...
For the thousands of people hearing this that live in the Grand Blanc area, the southern Flint, Michigan, in Genesee County, the greatest county in all of the United States, unless you measure it by any sort of metric, in which case it's the worst county. But the greatest, because we're there. It's a cool place, But yeah, it's called Grand Blanc Music. It is a store founded by my Uncle Rick. He's still the owner, always the boss man. He'll be performing on piano live at Pizza Mia, a local Italian restaurant. And that's going to be this Saturday. So, all 100,000 of you, come on out, support him.
All 5 of you.
5.
All 5 who are watching that are in Flint. And Rick Kanon once again asks, seriously, where can you find Fenders?
Guitar Center. That's the truth.
Or
the internet.
The internet.
Fuck us. Go to Guitar Center. Go to the internet. Look at their Fenders. Sorry. Right. Okay. No. Hey, what we do is we teach music. All right.
I think that's important. Is that if you want to
the coolest people working there, it's a fun environment, fun place.
If you want to one day be to the point where you're performing as Dream Theater, where you're doing these sorts of things, where if you want to become,
I would much rather you perform as like a great musician who writes great music.
If you want to one day excel, I've learned one thing about music is that if you want to eventually excel to become a performer, or even you just want to have it in your back pocket, going to Kyle's store is the best place, especially if you've never learned to play music. It's always a good thing to know. And it's never...
And the whole philosophy behind it, too, is when Rick started this, he had worked in a lot of music stores. And the idea here is it's for anybody. Parents come in who know nothing about music, and imagine this. We don't take advantage of them. We don't lie to them. We don't make it seem like there's this incredible hurdle to get your kid into music. No, it's easy. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
Buy it. Get yourself a cheap instrument and practice. That's all you have to do. You don't need a Fender. You don't need to spend $1,200 on your first trumpet.
You shouldn't. Right? You shouldn't.
You need to practice.
You should have. Honestly, you should start with like the shittiest of things, because if you do, when you get to the point when you can actually play the instrument, you start to do your research. Like me,
you'll appreciate all those things. Don't go spend $1,000 and get something that, let's say you actually get good enough to need $1,000 instrument. You'll go, this isn't the one I should have got. This is just what the guy talked me into and made me think I needed. It's none of that's true.
It took me a while.
Music is for everyone, and music is in all of us. And anyone can do it. Any kid that shows interest, get them in there. Teach them that it's cool, it's fun, it's good for your brain, makes you better at math, makes you better in social situations. It's just music is a part of life. We've talked about music a ton, both on your show and just constantly off your show. Of course, it's one of the things we've talked about a ton. It's just music is a part of humanity.
In the words of Warren G, rhythm is life and life is rhythm.
Warren G.
I wanted to
Who
look.
has Warren G quote ready to go?
It's regulators. We mount up.
A show.
This is the kind of show that has a Warren G quote in the back pocket. This is the kind of show that
I've
that can
waited
just
300 episodes to say that.
rhythm is life.
Got it.
Life is rhythm. Now, fucking Warren G and Nate Dogg and Warren G have to hell yeah, fucking regulators. Of course, you want to catch me, though. I'm at Vincent404 there on the Twitters and on the chat rooms and everywhere else in between. You can head to our website, CosmicRadio.TV /8BitLife and help and check out previous episodes. We have 300 for Lord's sakes at this point in time, ranging from other episodes of Kyle on to having other random creatives and stuff like that.
From low to high.
Low to high. You can head to, of course, you check out the show notes there, our Twitter account for the show, which is at 8BitLife Podcast. And of course, if you happen to have any more money left over for after all your crazy purchases of things like that, head over to patreon.com /8BitLife and help the show become bigger, better, and more awesomer. So that is it for today. So until next time, I'm talking to another geek about something completely and utterly random. Bye, people.
Thank you. Bye-bye.